Welcome to Built, Wired, and Secured. I'm Alex Morgan. In today's episode, we're discussing Carrier Cutover Playbook, managing circuit transitions without disruption, what it is, why it matters, and what decision makers need to know to avoid costly mistakes. Joining me today is Michael Harrington as we break down real-world lessons, common challenges, and practical takeaways you can apply immediately. Let's dive in. Picture this. A mid-sized office tower schedules a carrier cutover after hours. The carrier flips the circuit, phones and guest Wi-Fi come up, but access control fails, the CCTV recorder loses streams, and a cloud-based elevator monitoring feed drops during morning traffic. Tenants call the front desk. Facilities scramble. That night turns into 2 days of firefighting and credits. This episode is about preventing that exact scenario. Here's the promise. By the end of the episode, you'll have a repeatable cutover checklist, who needs to own the change, which tests actually catch problems, and clear rollback triggers so you don't stay up all night troubleshooting. Michael, thanks for joining.
Glad to be here. From an operational standpoint, cutovers are where planning meets reality. They touch telecom, IT, physical security, HVAC, and tenant services, and any of those can suddenly become the headline. My goal is to make these transitions predictable.
Quick context. Why do carrier transitions matter so much for building operations? It's not just internet speed. We're talking phone systems, access control, CCTV, point of sale, OT like BAS and elevator telemetry, and tenant cloud services, all of which may depend on new or existing circuits. When ownership is unclear, test plans are superficial, or lead times are compressed, the risk of outage spikes.
Exactly. And that's where I ask, what breaks if this goes down? Identify those systems up front. When teams don't, they assume the carrier will just make it work. That's fine until it fails. Clear demarcation, who owns the handoff, who tests, who signs acceptance, is the single biggest risk reducer.
Section 1. Planning and Ownership. Walk us through the essentials. Single cutover owner, demarcation clarity, lead times, and carrier coordination trade-offs when schedules get tight.
Start by naming a single cutover owner, not a committee. That person coordinates carriers, facilities, IT, and tenant liaisons. Define demarcation points in writing. Carrier demarc to building demarc to tenant equipment. Set minimum lead times. Carriers often need weeks for provisioning and testing. If you compress that window, you accept trade-offs. Fewer test cycles, higher chance of backout, and more vendor handoffs.
What about sign-offs? Who should sign acceptance at each stage?
Have 3 sign-offs. Carrier acceptance at their demarc, technical acceptance by your IT or systems engineer for connectivity and performance tests, and facilities/operations acceptance for building systems. Tenant critical services need a tenant acceptance window if requested. Put escalation contacts in the runbook so you don't hunt for phone numbers during a failure.
Section 2. Execution and Validation. Sequencing matters. What specific test cases catch real problems rather than giving a false sense of success?
Keep tests small and high value. First, validate basic connectivity to the internet and carrier-provided circuits. Then run application-level tests. Place and receive VoIP calls across PSTN and internal dial plans. Authenticate and exercise access control readers. Stream CCTV recordings for 30 minutes to validate retention and latency. And run BAS commands that control HVAC set points. Don't forget failover tests. Simulate the primary circuit down and confirm upstream failover works within your SLA window.
Give me a practical rollback trigger example, a simple rule teams can follow under pressure.
A good rule. If any tenant-critical system fails a predefined acceptance test after 2 remediation attempts within the scheduled window, trigger rollback. Example, if VoIP call quality is dropping below MOS thresholds, or access control readers fail authentication and rebooting endpoints doesn't resolve it, rollback. The runbook should list those explicit triggers, so decisions aren't made emotionally at 2 a.m.
Section 3. Implications and Resilience. After the cutover, what should ops teams do to hand over, monitor, and reduce tenant impact?
Document everything. Updated network diagrams, IP changes, circuit IDs, and contact lists. Create an observation window, typically 24 to 72 hours, with elevated monitoring and a clear rapid response team. Notify tenants with a short status update at change completion and again at the end of the observation window. Tenants feel this immediately. Clear communication prevents escalation and builds trust.
And for long-term resilience?
Follow up with the lessons learned within a week. Update the cutover template with real test results and unexpected issues. Where feasible, build redundancy with clear failover validation into maintenance routines. Finally, put runbooks where teams can find them, not buried in email chains.
Before we wrap, share 2 quick field examples and the lesson each one taught you.
Example 1. A building rushed a cutover in a weekend to meet a tenant deadline. Phones and internet passed basic tests, but a cloud-based access control portal used a different outbound route and failed. Result, tenants couldn't badge in. Lesson, basic ping tests miss application-level routing and firewall rules. Test the actual user flows. Example 2. We scheduled a parallel validation window where the new circuit ran in parallel for 48 hours while the old circuit remained active. We detected intermittent jitter on VoIP under peak load and tuned QoS before final cutover. Lesson, parallel validation catches load and latency issues that single-point checks miss.
Key takeaways. 1. Name a single cutover owner and document demarcations and sign-offs. 2. Run a small set of high-value tests that exercise real user flows and failover. 3. Define explicit rollback triggers and an observation window with tenant communications. And 4. Capture lessons and update the runbook. If you want the playbook and a downloadable cutover checklist and template, visit our site to grab the checklist and a sample runbook you can adapt. That wraps up this episode of Built, Wired, and Secured. Today, we explored a practical, repeatable cutover playbook that reduces tenant outages and operational risk, and why it matters to the people responsible for planning, operating, and protecting technology environments. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us. Until next time, make sure the systems you're responsible for are built to last, wired with intention, and secured for the real world.